Hey folks, this is Riker with a gaming news wrap-up video where we discuss the happenings of the week. This week's topics include a new Borderlands game coming this summer, a Blizzard survey scaring players with talk about NFTs, a mysterious Diablo Immortal announcement happening on Monday, and more. As always, discussion timestamps can be found in the video description, but right before we skip ahead, just a quick reminder to ring that sub notification bell to be alerted to new Saturday episodes and stay up to date with gaming news highlights. Now, before we move on, just a quick word from this video's sponsor, World of Tanks Blitz, a free-to-play, massively multiplayer PvP tank shooter available on Windows, Android, iOS, and Nintendo Switch. You can play cross-platform, logging in from Steam to team up with your buddy playing on his phone in 7 vs 7 team-based PvP. Unique to this franchise are tank gameplay mechanics like ricocheting and bullet penetration. Basically, the game calculates the angle at which you hit enemy armor and measures the thickness of the armor based on the angle to determine whether your bullet penetrates the armor or ricochets off. I'm oversimplifying here, but mastering the mechanics of this game key to joining the ranks of the best players. There are over 400 vehicles to choose from, a huge amount of customization you can do to personalize your vehicle, and the game is constantly being updated with new events and gameplay mechanics. World of Tanks Blitz first released in 2014, and the devs have worked with the community to build the game up into what it is today, with a community of over 170 million players worldwide. The game has 8 different game modes, some permanent and some available only for a limited time. A fan favorite is the Uprising mode, which is available this weekend from April 22nd to 24th, and you gotta try it out. Battles play out in 9-minute skirmishes, everyone gets 3 respawns, and after each respawn, your vehicle gains a special ability, like invisibility, time jumps, and chain lightning. It's ridiculous fun. Click the link in the description to check out World of Tanks Blitz for free and support the channel. In our first story, Gearbox Software has announced at PAX East a new Tales from the Borderlands game releasing this summer. Developed in-house by Gearbox and published by 2K, this interactive point-and-click adventure will follow an entirely new cast of characters from the first 5-episode Tales from the Borderlands game, which was developed and published by Telltale Games back in 2014 and 2015. Gearbox has been secretly working on this new installment for many years, and it's unsurprising that this was developed in-house given the woes Telltale faced in recent years, basically shutting down in 2018 and later relaunching after being acquired by LGC Entertainment, but losing their licensing rights to many of the properties they covered. Now, Gearbox didn't share many details, but did share this preview image, which depicts 3 figures standing in front of the Great Vault entrance, which is a massive set of Iridian ruins, and a quest location in Borderlands 3 where you fight Troy Calypso. In other Gearbox news, the company is set to acquire Lost Boys Interactive for an undisclosed sum, bringing its studio of 220 employees into its fold. Lost Boys helped Gearbox with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which released recently to favorable reviews. So it's not too surprising to see this acquisition, especially since Gearbox has been expanding ever since it was acquired by Embracer Group in February of last year. Notably, last August, Gearbox opened a new studio in Montreal, Canada, at which point it grew its staff to 850 members, and now with this latest acquisition, Gearbox will have over 1,000 staff. And speaking of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, the first DLC to the game has already launched, Coiled Raptors. This is the first of 4 planned DLCs to release for the Season Pass. And while the bug fixes that came with this DLC were well received, the DLC itself is being criticized for its paucity of content. It effectively only features a 10-minute dungeon and cosmetics. There's no new enemies, there's no new environments, no new story really. And players originally were even having a hard time locating the content in-game due to a bug, which has since been fixed on PC, with some players claiming that it took them longer to find the new content than it took to complete it. So hopefully better luck with the second DLC. In other news, 2 of the major console manufacturers are now looking to put advertisements inside their games on their consoles. I mean, more than they already have. Microsoft is working with ad tech companies to insert ads for select brands within Xbox free-to-play games in a seamless manner, like on billboards inside the game. as an alternative to microtransactions. And we can start seeing these popping up as soon as the third quarter of this year. Initially, only select brands will be allowed to advertise through this program, and Xbox would actually not be taking a cut on this revenue. It would all go to the game devs and their advertisers. And Microsoft feels this will encourage more devs of free-to-play games to develop games for Xbox. But this isn't the first time that Microsoft has shown interest in placing ads in-game. In 2006, the company bought Massive Incorporated, an ad company that provided software and services to dynamically host advertisements within video games, with some notable examples being Madden and Burnout Paradise. However, Microsoft ended up shutting down Massive Incorporated in 2010 after the business failed to reach its estimated revenue goals. So it's interesting that they're revisiting this kind of tech a decade later. But Microsoft isn't the only one looking into this. Sony is also planning to start adding ads in its free-to-play titles by the end of the year, a project they've been working on since the PS5 reveal. It's unclear though whether Sony will be taking a cut on these, but they do seem to plan on rewarding viewers for watching ads by unlocking promotions for in-game items and skins. In Activision Blizzard news, as we continue to wait and see if the Microsoft acquisition goes through, we learned recently that Microsoft has actually tried to buy Blizzard before. On the April 17th episode of the Xbox Era podcast, former Xbox Vice President Ed Fries revealed that he first tried to buy Blizzard in 1996, back when Blizzard was mostly known for its real-time strategy games. Fries was a fan of Blizzard, so when Blizzard's parent company went up for sale in 96, he got Microsoft to bid on it, but they lost out to a real estate and travel company called Cendant Corporation. Then 2 years later, Cendant put Blizzard up for sale in 1998, and Microsoft tried to buy it again. But then they lost out to Vivendi. Then once Blizzard released WoW in 2004, Fries basically said that Blizzard became too expensive for Microsoft to purchase. He later left Microsoft that same year. In other Blizzard news, players reported this week receiving surveys from Blizzard, which is not atypical, but with an atypical question thrown into their usual mix of gaming-related questions. Players are asked to rate their degree of interest in, among other things, play-to-earn gaming, NFTs, and cryptocurrency. Alarm bells started ringing. Blizzard is adding NFTs to their games. But Blizzard boss Mike Ibarra immediately stepped in with a soft corporate PR statement that left the door open for this possibility. Or not. No, he actually made a definitive and declarative statement, something refreshing to see from the boss of a company. He said simply, "No one is doing NFTs." So the question then is, why did Blizzard ask about NFTs in the survey? Well, speaking with Kotaku, a Blizzard representative said, quote, "The company conducts surveys regularly on a wide range of emerging topics to better learn about the interests of our players, regardless of our involvement in such trends." Meanwhile, other companies like Ubisoft and Square Enix have embraced the idea of NFTs and blockchain-based games. Now I turn the question to you folks. What do you think of NFTs and crypto in gaming? Sound off in the comments. In super quick Dungeons & Dragons news, Wizards of the Coast held its first ever D&D Direct this week, a digital convention in which the company revealed its plans for the tabletop RPG in 2022 and beyond. And most notably, they revealed that they're bringing both Spelljammer and Dragonlance to 5th edition. They also revealed the title of the upcoming D&D movie, Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, with a release date for next year. In other news, LEGO Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga released earlier this month, and it sold enough copies to become the second biggest game launch of the year, with sales nearly matching those of Elden Ring. And it's interesting because these two games couldn't be more dissimilar. These are the top two selling games of the year, and they're just on completely opposite ends of the spectrum. One game features double-sided lightsabers, making friends with quirky characters, and wearing queen's robes, and the other is a LEGO game. In other news, the long-running MMORPG The Lord of the Rings Online is going mostly free-to-play with its latest update. 75% of the content is going to be free-to-play. And if you join now during the 15-year anniversary event, you also get the 3 most recent expansions for free. And while the game is visually dated by today's standards, understandably, the devs do seem to be working on some graphical updates behind the scenes, though they're skittish to publicly commit to anything. Back in 2020, it was a while ago now, they announced a version of the game would be coming for PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, and that this would come with, quote, visual and technical enhancements. Now, ever since Amazon in 2021 canceled its Lord of the Rings MMO that it had in the works, Lord of the Rings Online may be able to capitalize now on the renewed interest we're going to see in Lord of the Rings once the Amazon TV series premieres in September. In other old MMORPG news, TERA is shutting down its servers on June 30th. The devs announced that they're making this decision in order to, quote, focus their internal development efforts on other projects. The game first launched in 2012, and I actually remember writing a review for it back then when I was working as a games journalist. It was a pretty solid game, but after over a decade, I can't blame the devs for wanting to move on. All currency, progress, and accounts will be lost once the servers go down, and even the social media pages and website will be shut down. In World of Warcraft news, the new expansion Dragonflight was revealed, to no one's surprise since it leaked the previous week. With the expansion comes a new race class combo, the Glaivier Evoker, customizable dragon mounts, a rework to the talent system and professions, and of course, new zones, dungeons, and raids. There's no release date yet, but based on past experience, Blizzard tends to announce these roughly a year ahead of release. Blizzard also revealed this week Wrath of the Lich King coming to WoW Classic later this year, which will be freely available to all players with an active WoW subscription. And man, I gotta say, that cinematic trailer, the classic Arthas theme just gives me shivers every time I hear it. And then hearing King Tyrannus speak.
My son, the day you were born, the very forests of Lordaeron whispered the name Arthas.
Man, did that stir up emotions. And then the ending.
You shall be king.
So heavy. So good. In Path of Exile news, we got the announcement of an announcement. The devs revealed the name of their May expansion, Sentinel. The live reveal will happen on May 5th, and the expansion will launch on May 13th. In Lost Ark news, the Battle for the Throne of Chaos April update released this week, featuring new content, quality of life updates, bug fixes, and more. The Glaivier class released, and we have an overview video here that covers everything to know about this class, so do give that a look. The patch also introduced a new area, South Fern, new skins, 6 more character slots, and also a battle pass with both a free and paid track to unlock honing materials, pirate coins, a mount, and more. In Elden Ring news, a patch released this week with major balance updates, including a buff to a number of lesser used spells, and nerfs to overused spells like Swarm of Flies, Flame of Frenzy, and Frenzied Burst. Many weapon skills have been buffed, which will hopefully see a shakeup in the meta. The devs also added an option to turn the camera auto-rotate function off, which I must say is an unacceptable and frankly unexpected dumbing down of the game for casual players. I mean, part of the extreme difficulty of this game is having to constantly struggle with and fight the camera, right? Right? Seriously, great quality of life change. There are also a host of bug fixes, including putting an end to the Panty Raider bug. You see, this hacker known as Pantsu Dealer would go around invading other people's games and drop an item that the devs had created but ultimately did not actually make available in the game. It's a pair of panties from the NPC Fia's armor set, and the only way to obtain this item is via hacking the game. And so Pantsu Dealer would go around dealing out pairs of these pantsu to unsuspecting players. Sadly for these players who grabbed the panties, From Software banned players who had the hacked item in their possession. And even after requesting the bans to be reversed, players had to delete their entire save file to avoid future bans, since their saves were seemingly forever tainted by the stolen panties. In quick Diablo news, Blizzard teased a Diablo Immortal reveal of some kind, happening on Monday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time on the Diablo Immortal YouTube channel. As we speculated on what this could be, games journalist and inside scoop haver Jason Schreier is claiming that this will be the release date reveal, which is happening at the same time as Activision Blizzard's quarterly earnings report. The 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time is quite unusual for a Blizzard reveal. Most Blizzard announcements happen during NA-friendly times. The company itself is situated in West Coast America, so it's going to be, 4:30 a.m. for them. So this is certainly a time that is friendlier to Europeans, possibly also in Asia. If this will be the release date reveal date, then it does seem like we probably still are on track for a Q1 2022 launch for the game, since the quarter ends at the end of June, but we'll find out one way or another soon enough, Monday morning. And in Diablo 2 Resurrected news, Blizzard revealed last week that the remaster has sold over 5 million copies since its launch 6 months ago. To put that into perspective, it took the original Diablo 2 1 year to reach 4 million copies sold. And at the time, This was considered one of the fastest selling PC games ever. It actually made it into the Guinness Book of World Records for having sold 2 million copies in 1.5 months. Now, the gaming market has expanded a lot since then. Bestsellers today sell far more copies than bestsellers 20 years ago, but still, for a remaster of a 20-year-old game, Diablo 2 Resurrected sales are very impressive. And as a reminder, the first ladder for D2R launches this coming Thursday, April 28th. And we have the first significant balance patch that the game has received in over a decade. If you're jumping back into the game for the ladder start, be sure to check out our leveling guides. We have one for each class, as well as our Ultimate Beginner's Guide. And stay tuned for more guides as well. We'll have farming guides, mercenary guides, since the mercenaries have been reworked, as well as a video on the best builds to play in patch 2.4. And that's going to wrap up this week's video. But do be sure to have checked out last week's video in which we discussed the surprise changes that emerged when patch 2.4 launched for D2 last week. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider pledging on YouTube or Patreon and unlocking behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. Check out these other videos and subscribe to join Riker's Raiders for more gaming content.